Before we start off today's episode, a brief word of a correction and a bit of an apology as well. Like to obviously sincerely apologize for our last episode where we had a little bit, or really a big bit, of a mistake. In the title, for some reason, I put Michael Brown instead of Eric Gardner as the officer who was fired after killing Michael Brown. That was incorrect. It was not Michael Brown who was killed. It was obviously Eric Gardner, Daniel Pantaleo, fired in New York, not in Ferguson. Really do apologize for that. Really embarrassed when I was informed of that just a few hours ago, and it is obviously now changed. We deeply regret that error. With that out of the way, let's start today's episode. Hello everyone, welcome to today's Newsflash episode. Huge episode today. The EPA is literally killing our planet. I don't know why, we'll get into it. Boris Johnson's parliamentary suspension prompts fury, outrage, and resignations in the UK. James Comey's still in the news. Yes, we'll talk about him hopefully very briefly. Kirsten Gillibrand ending her 2020 bid. Trump calls out MSNBC after a botched report. We'll take a look at Greta Thunberg landing in the United States today for a climate summit and what she's faced along the way. Checking in on the insurgency and how we're doing nationwide. Ilhan Omar and the double standard around criticizing along religious lines, and there's no get out of Trump free card. A special message from Hamilton Nolan, a piece I do want to get into and add on to a little bit as well. You know what, actually, I've decided we're going to do a little bit of a trade-off, and trade off that Hamilton Nolan piece that we always love to check out once in a while on our show for a little bit of an article breakdown. This time from Enemy Territory in the National Review. Let's get right into that. That'll be very, very interesting. So you do kind of want to make that a little bit of regular segment, just taking a look at what the other side is saying and kind of rebutting it. I think that would be very, very good. That's going to be all about socialism coming up a little bit later. But we start at the top with the EPA, and they're planning to roll back regulations on methane, one of the most potent, if not the most potent greenhouse gases out there. The Trump administration is set to announce on Thursday that it intends to sharply curtail the regulation of methane emissions, a major contributor to the climate change, according to an industry official with knowledge of the plan. The EPA, in a proposed rule, will aim to eliminate federal requirements that oil and gas companies install technology to inspect for or fix methane leaks from wells, pipelines, or storage facilities. So pretty much, again, it's helping out oil and gas companies, taking the weight off their backs of really just trying to protect the planet is really what this is. It's something that, I guess, obviously it's not fun. Maybe it gets away in a little bit of profit. But the thing is, that is it's probably one of the biggest downsides of capitalism, is that you have a whole group of companies, and this is probably one of the most potent examples there is out there, a whole group of companies who literally have a profit incentive to kill the planet. And the problem with politics today is there's a profit incentive for many of our politicians today to help them do that through legalized bribery and then obviously campaign finance donations and stuff like that. Because, probably a lot of these politicians are going to get a lot of checks in the mail. There's going to be checks to their campaign funds or whatever. And that's what it's going to be. It's literally driven into the market to take away and roll back these protections for methane. If this is not a problem with the system, I don't know what is. The proposed rollback is particularly notable because several major energy companies have, in fact, opposed it. So it's literally please, you're giving us too much. Stop. You're literally giving us way too much. This is going to be bad. I like this. I would like to have a planet to live on. Because, again, even if you're the CEO of an oil or gas company, you're still going to have to contend with burning boiling seawater in the next 3 or 4 decades or so. It's still going to be reality for you too. Sure, you may be able to get into some underground bunker, but that's going to be a lot of work, and you'd probably like to avoid that if you could. And probably know people who maybe not even will be able to get into an underground bunker, even if you are super rich, and they are not. So yeah, again, it's like they're like, the funny thing is they're just like, please stop, don't do this. I mean, it's just absolutely insane and nihilistic here. Yeah, just as other industrial giants have opposed the previous administration initiatives to dismantle climate change and environmental rules, some of the world's largest auto companies have opposed Trump's plans to let vehicles pollute more, and a number of electric utilities have opposed the relaxation of restrictions on toxic mercury pollution from coal-fired power plants. Again, it's insane. I mean, obviously, there are people who are very politically active, a lot of companies who are very politically active, and they're supporting this. They're probably pushing this really more than anything. Like, they're giving the incentive for this to really happen, I think. Andrew Wheeler, with deep connections to the coal industry. And these pushbacks have been, the crazy thing is they have been opposed by even some companies, probably like BP, a lot of companies that are trying to go a little bit more, establish an image as somewhat of a green companies, green-friendly companies. They kind of have opposed this to a pretty large degree. And the fact that Trump is he's going along with them, again, literally letting vehicles pollute more in an age that we live in today. It's just such a malpractice. Probably, when we look back, it's probably going to be one of the deepest and least reported legacies of Donald Trump's presidency. The fact that he did this to the environment at such a critical and crucial time, just dismantling all the protections that we've had for years and years and years in the making to protect us. This is extraordinarily harmful, says Rachel Kite, the United Nations Special Representative on Sustainable Energy, said of this and other administration efforts to undo climate regulations dating from the Obama administration, just at a time when the federal government's job should be to help localities and states move faster towards cleaner energy and a cleaner economy, just at the moment when the speed and scale is what's at stake, the government is walking off the field. And that's a great way to put, literally walking off the field and literally taking the like they're taking the field, like they're dragging everyone else down with them is really what they're doing, because they're pushing that agenda, and that's probably one of the most more devastating things that you could probably see. And then probably just the fact that this is such it's really insane. It kind of boggles the mind at this point. The new rule must go through a period of public comment and review. Will most likely be finalized early next year, analysts said. The Wall Street Journal initially reported the expected rule. Overall, carbon dioxide is the most significant greenhouse gas, but methane is a close second. It lingers in the atmosphere for a shorter period of time, but packs a bigger punch while it lasts. By some estimates, methane has 80 times the heat-trapping power of carbon dioxide in the first 20 years in the atmosphere. So, again, it may not stay as long, but it really traps the heat. It really suffocates our planet and raises the temperature to an extraordinary degree. Methane currently makes up nearly 10% of greenhouse gas emissions in the United States. A significant portion of that comes from the oil and gas sector. So, yeah. Eric Melito, a vice president at the American Petroleum Institute, a trade group representing the oil and gas industry, praised the proposed rule, saying, "We think it's a smarter way of targeting methane emissions." So, that's pretty much... yeah, what we're doing is here, we're targeting them by letting them happen. It's literally not targeting them at all, is really what it is. It's a very funny Orwellian way of putting it. Smaller oil and gas companies have complained to the Trump administration about the Obama rules, saying it's too costly for them to perform the required gas leak inspections. Well, that's the definition of tough. That's too bad, because we need to have a planet that will not have companies, oil and gas companies, I don't care how small you are, spilling methane out into the atmosphere. Like, that's not okay under any circumstances whatsoever. Those larger companies have invested millions of dollars to promote the to promote the use of electricity from burning natural gas, which produces about half as much carbon dioxide as coal. They fear that the unrestricted leaks of methane could undermine their pitch that gas is a cleaner energy source, leading to a lower demand for the fuel. This is bigger oil companies that really do want to tighten restriction on methane to pretty much promote kind of a green image here. Exxon wrote to the EPA last year, urging the agency to maintain the core elements of the Obama-era policy. And earlier this year, Gretchen Watkins, the United States chairwoman for Shell, said that the EPA should impose rules that would regulate emissions, regulate existing methane emissions, but also for future methane emissions as well. Again, just take a look at some of their pitches here. It's not even that really environmentally friendly. They're not coming in like Greenpeace here. They're just saying, please, just like this is really, really, really important. This is a survival thing. Pretty much what they say is they want to promote electricity, and they fear that unrestricted leaks of methane could undermine the pitch of the gas is a clean energy source. So hopefully they will continue to do the checks anyway, even though it's not required. Even if these smaller gas companies don't, I guess it's just the best we can hope for in the Trump administration. Hooray! We love to see it, folks. We really, really do. All right, we're gonna move on now to our next story, where we take a trip across the bloody pond, where Boris Johnson is really up to something right now. Britain's Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, faced a growing and angry backlash on Thursday as his decision to suspend Parliament next month prompted protests and legal challenges and political opponents scrambling to salvage efforts to stop a disorderly Brexit. So pretty much what he did is say, because they're leaving, I think, no matter what, as it stands now, on October 31st. And it is... The opposition to this really has been insane. So pretty much what he did here is they're leaving on October 31st. So he shut down the Parliament. So before this all took place, before Boris Johnson went to the Queen to kind of suspend the Parliament, what they had was a 5-week session to debate the deal, starting September 3rd to September 12th. Then they had a break for something called party conferences that went all the way until October 9th, from September 12th to October 9th. Then there was an EU summit on the 17th and 18th of October, and they had until the 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th, all the way to the 31st, when Britain left the EU. So Johnson introduced a new parliamentary session and delayed the return of lawmakers, leaving less than 3 weeks until the Brexit deadline. So Brexit legislation introduced during the 2 weeks cannot carry over to the new session in September. So if you introduce something in September, it will not matter in October. You've got to reintroduce it, and there's got to be more and more debate and debate and debate. The new session, the Queen's speech, and the debates will happen on the week of October 14th. So just short period of time, around 2 weeks before they do leave the EU. The new 5-week suspension period, or prorogation, announced Wednesday, includes the 3 weeks when lawmakers already anticipated being in recess, but now they won't return until October 14th, when a new parliamentary session would begin, as opposed to returning October 9th. So they lost a pretty key amount of time there. No, they're going to actually, I think they're going to return I think they're going to return 22nd, but, October 14th, yeah, as opposed to, I believe, having the 3rd through the 12th until, the 9th. They'll have the 3rd through 12th of September, and then they'll have the 9th through the 31st in October, as opposed to, under the new plan, they won't have any of September, and they won't have, they will have until the 14th. So, yeah, they pretty much cut off all of September there. It's not good under any stretch of the imagination. So they will not have the 3rd through the 12th of September to debate at all, when they thought that they would have. It's pretty much how that's going to work. A new session of Parliament begins with a speech by the Queen setting out the government's proposed legislation for the period, which is debated over several days, consuming further time lawmakers opposed to a no-deal Brexit could have used to try to tie Johnson's hands. The decision to upend parliamentary session and start a new one also deprives lawmakers of the power to cut short their break, further tightening the timetable, and if rebel lawmakers don't succeed in passing legislation by the end of the current session, they'll have to start the process all over again on October 14th, because Johnson's biggest priority here is getting Brexit no matter what the cost, no matter what could possibly happen. He just wants Brexit to happen no matter what. So that is going to be what he's going to try and do, and he's going to do it at all costs. We had Andy Cowles on, I think back in March, and he thought there was going to be a new deal happening any second. No deal happening any second, and he was literally stockpiling food. He lives in London, and he was literally stockpiling food to pretty much get prepared for what he thought would be literally the worst. Which was, it just gives a sense of what's happening. It's huge backlashes of medicine. Huge problems with food, huge problems with or backlogs of medicine, food, because there's going to be tons of new trade regulations